Welcome, students. Today, we will explore neural control and coordination, and this will be theory part 2. And in today's session, we will cover NCERT section 18.4. This is disclaimer. Let's see today's learning objectives. So, first, we will understand the basic structure and organization of the human brain. Then, we will identify the major parts of the brain, that is, forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Then we will learn the functions of different parts of the brain. So this is our learning objectives. So today we will cover central nervous system, which will cover NCERT section 18.4. Then we will bind up the chapter with summary. Then we will solve some NCERT based questions. Finally, we will end this session with keynotes and interesting questions. Let's start with the introduction. Brain. It is a key part of our bodies, how our body control and coordinate different functions. Okay, so it is if we talk about brain, it is at the center of our nervous system, and understanding it helps us see how we think, move, and respond to the world. So it is a key part of how our bodies control and coordinate different functions. So you can see different regions of brain. You can notice the unique structure with folds and grooves. These increases the surface area and allow for more complex processing. So we will talk about it in detail. So brain is the main information processing organ in our body. So you can think of it like the central computer that receives, processes, and sends out instructions to every part of us. Without the brain, none of our body systems could work together smoothly. We often call the brain as the command and control system of the body. Just like a conductor leads an orchestra, the body directs all our actions, thoughts, and feelings, making sure everything works in a harmony. So let's see at some of the specific things the brain controls. So it is responsible for a wide range of activities from movements. So we choose to make to automatic processes we don't even think about. So we will go through each of them one by one. First, the brain controls voluntary movements. This means that any action you decide to do, like picking up a pencil or walking across the room, starts with a signal from your brain. So it's like sending a command from your computer to the printer. Next, the brain helps maintain the balance of our body. For example, when you ride a bicycle or stand on one foot, your brain is constantly processing information to keep you upright and steady. Now, the brain also manages the functioning of vital involuntary organs such as your hearts and lungs. So, these are the actions you don't consciously control, like your heartbeat or breathing, but your brain is always making sure they work properly. Thermoregulation is another important job of the brain. This means that the brain helps keep your body temperature steady like a thermostat in your house. So if you get too hot or too cold, your brain triggers responses to bring your temperature back to normal. Brain also controls feelings of hunger and thirst. So when your body needs food or water, the brain sends signals that make you feel hungry or thirsty, prompting you to eat or drink. Circadian rhythms, or the 24-hour cycles of our body, also regulated by the brain. This is why when you feel sleepy at night and awake during the day, your brain keeps track of time and helps set your daily routine. So the brain oversees the activities of several endocrine glands, which releases hormones into your bloodstream. Now these hormones control things like growth, metabolism, and stress responses, showing how the brain connects to many other systems. Finally, the brain is central to human behavior. Everything from our emotions and decision making to our social interaction is influenced by brain activity. It's what makes each of us unique in how we think and act. So let's look what brain actually does. It is the main site for processing all kinds of information that our body receives and sends out. First, The brain processes vision. This means it takes the information from our eyes and helps us understand what we see. So it's like the brain is our personal movie director, turning light into images we can recognize. Next, the brain handles hearing. It receives sound signals from our ears and interprets them so we can understand speech, music, and other noises. The brain is also responsible for speech. It helps us form words, understand language, and communicate with others. This is similar to a control center that manages both the creation and interpretation of the messages. Memory is another key function of the brain. It stores information, experiences, and skills, allowing us to learn and remember things over time. So you can think of memory as the brain's filling cabinet, keeping important details safe for later use. Intelligence is processed in the brain as well. This includes our ability to solve problems, think logically, and understand complex ideas. So it's like the brain's problem solving department always working to find the solutions. So emotions are also managed by the brain. It helps us feel happiness, sadness, anger, and more, influencing how we react to different situations. Finally, the brain is where our thoughts are formed. So every idea, plan, or daydream starts here. It's like the brainstorming room of our body where creativity and planning happen. So you can see the complex structure and how it's neatly enclosed. So you can see these kind of visual help us appreciate this how important it is to keep the brain protected from any kind of injury. So it is the first line of defense. Talking about brain, it is the first line of talking about brain, it has the first line of defense, which is skull. Okay, which is also called as cranium. It's like a hard helmet that shields the brain from bumps and knocks, just like a helmet protects our head. But the skull isn't only protection. Inside the skull, the brain is wrapped in a special coverings called as cranial meninges, and these are layers of bubble wrapping that cushion and protects the delicate brain tissue. The outermost layer is called the dura mater. It's thick and tough, acting like a sturdy outer shell. So you can imagine it as a hard case of a laptop, providing strong protection against outside forces. Next, we have the arachnoid matter, which is the middle layer. So it's thin and web-like, a bit like a soft net that adds another layer of cushioning. So this layer helps absorb shocks and keeps the brain stable inside the skull. The innermost layer is the pia meter. It's very thin and sits right on top of the brain tissue, almost like plastic wrap covering food. So this layer ensures that the brain is snugly protected and helps supply it with nutrients. Between the arachnoid and pia meter is a space filled with cerebrospinal fluid or CSF. So this fluid here acts as a shock absorber, much like the suspension in a car, protecting the brain from sudden movements or impacts. So our brain is covered or protected by multiple layers. Let's see major parts of the brain. So you can note the different regions, each with its unique shape and location. Okay. So the brain is divided into three major parts. Each part has a specific roles working together to manage everything from our thoughts to our movements. So it's similar to how a company has different departments, each handling a specific set of tasks. So first we have forebrain, which is also called as prosencephalon. So this is the largest part of the brain and it's responsible for higher functions like thinking, memory, and decision making. Next is the midbrain, and this brain acts like a relay station, passing messages between different parts of the brain and helping control movements and responses to the sights and sound. So it's like a communication hub. Finally, we have the hindbrain known as rhombencephalon. This part controls basic functions like breathing, heart rate, and balance. So you can imagine this as a balance, or we can say maintenance department. To sum up, we can say that the brain is divided into forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, each with its important function. So we have already talked about it that brain is divided into three major parts: the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. The forebrain includes the cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. So you can think of it as the control center for thinking and emotions. Then we have midbrain, which acts as a bridge between the forebrain and hindbrain, while the hindbrain includes the pons, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata, which handle basic life functions like breathing and balance. So the brain stem is made up of midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. So you can think of brain stem as the main highway connecting the brain to the rest of the body, making sure messages travel back and forth efficiently. So here, key point about the brain stem is that it connects the brain to the spinal cord, and this connection is crucial. So it's like the main cable that links your brain to all the peripheral, or we can say peripheral body parts, allowing information to flow in both the directions. So we have learned about the major divisions of brain and how the brain stem serves as the vital link to the spinal cord. So remember, each part of the brain has a unique role, but also all work together to control everything we do. Let's talk about forebrain. It is responsible for many of the higher functions that make us human, like thinking, memory, and voluntary movement. Let's talk about its structure and specific function. So you can see the structure of forebrain and its parts. So let's talk about cerebrum, which is the largest part of the human brain. So you can think of cerebrum as the headquarters for all our thoughts, decisions, and voluntary actions. It's what allows us to read, solve problems, and even experience emotions. The cerebrum forms the major part of the human brain. So you can imagine it as the main office in a big company where most of the important decisions were made. This is where most of our conscious activities happen. So a deep cleft divides the cerebrum into right and left cerebral hemisphere. So you can think of these hemispheres like two separate teams working together, each controlling the opposite side of the body. So this division is important for specialized functions like language or special skills. Now the two hemispheres are connected by a bundle of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum. Now this structure acts like a bridge, allowing messages to pass between the right and left sides of the brain. Without this connection, the two halves couldn't be able to coordinate their activities. So the outer layer of the cerebrum is called the cerebral cortex, which is often referred to as gray matter. It has many folds called as gyri and grooves called as sulci, which increases its surface area. So you can think of it like a crumbled piece of paper. More surface area means more space for processing information. Okay, so it has a structure like a crumbled piece of paper because it leads to more surface area, which eventually increases the space for processing information. So it contains motor areas, sensory areas, and association areas for memory, or we can say for memory communication. The inner part of the cerebral hemispheres is made up of nerve fibers covered with myelin sheet, and this myelin sheet acts like insulation on the electrical wires, helping signals travel quickly and efficiently throughout the brain. Because of the myelin sheath, the inner part of the cerebrum looks white and is called as white matter. This white matter is crucial for connecting different parts of the brain, allowing information to flow smoothly, much like highways connecting different cities. So, we have just covered the main features of forebrain and cerebrum. So, we will explore more about these structures in our later slides. After cerebrum, let's start with thalamus. So this structure acts like a relay station in the brain. It receives information from our senses and sends it to right areas of the brain for processing. So it is especially important for coordinating sensory and motor signals. So you can see that it acts as a traffic controller, making sure messages from our eyes, ears, and skin get to the right place and that instructions from your brain reach your muscles efficiently. Without the thalamus, our senses and movement would be disorganized. Now let's move on to the hypothalamus, which sits just below the thalamus. This is small, but powerful part of the brain is involved in many automatic processes that keeps us alive and healthy. So hypothalamus is located at the base of the thalamus. So you can think of it as the brain's thermostat and control panel tucked away in a central spot where it can monitor and adjust many body functions. So one of the thalamus's main job is to control body temperature, hunger, and thirst. For example, when you are too hot, it helps you sweat. When you are too hungry or thirsty, it triggers the urge to eat or drink. So it's like the body's internal manager, always making sure conditions are just right. Hypothalamus also contains special neurosecretory cells that releases hormones known as hypothalamic hormones. These hormones act as the messengers telling other glands in the body what to do, much like sending out emails to different departments in a company. Now, another key role of the hypothalamus is in the limbic system, often called the emotional brain, along with parts of the cerebrum like amygdala and hippocampus. It helps control our emotions, memories, even our reactions to stress. Now, it is also involved in regulating sexual behavior and expressing emotional reactions. For example, it helps trigger feelings like excitement, fear, or anger and coordinates the physical responses that go with them. So let's focus on midbrain, which is a crucial part of our nervous system. It acts like a relay station connecting different parts of the brain and helping coordinate. It helps in coordinating important functions. So you can take a look at the part of midbrain. First, the cerebral aqueduct runs through the midbrain. So you can think of it as a narrow canal or tunnel that allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow between different parts of the brain, much like a waterway connecting two lakes. So this flow is essential for cushioning the brain and removing waste. Next, the dorsal portion of the midbrain has four rounded lobes, which is called as corpora quadrigemina. Imagine these as four small bumps on the back of the midbrain. They play a key role in processing visual and auditory information, helping us react quickly to sights and sounds, like turning your head when you hear sudden noise. Let's talk about hindbrain, a crucial part of our nervous system. It helps control many automatic and essential functions in our body. Let's see its major parts. So, it is made up of several important structures, each with its unique role. So, we will discuss about it in detail. You can see the part of hindbrain in this picture. Let's talk about the pons. The pons are made up of fiber tracks, which are like highways connecting different regions of the brain. These connections allow to travel quickly, ensuring that different parts of the brain can communicate and coordinate actions efficiently. Next is the cerebellum. The cerebellum has a very convoluted or folded surface. So you can think of it like a crumbled piece of paper. These folds increases the surface area, allowing more neurons to fit in a small space, which boosts the brain's processing power. Now, the cerebellum's main job is to coordinate, balance, and voluntary muscle movements. So it's like the body's choreographer, making sure our movements are smooth and precise, whether you are walking, writing, or playing sports. Let's look at medulla oblongata. The medulla connects directly to the spinal cord, acting as a bridge between the brain and rest of the body. So it's like the main gateway for information traveling up and down the nervous system. Now, medulla contains control centers for vital functions like breathing, heart rate, and digestion. So you can think of it as the body's autopilot system. It keeps us breathing, our heartbeat beating, and our stomach working even when we are not thinking about it. Moving on, let's discuss the brain stem, which includes the midbrain pons and medulla. The brain stem is a critical structure that links the brain to the spinal cord, ensuring that signals can travel back and forth between the brain and rest of the body. Now, one of the most important or main role of the brain stem is to connect the brain and spinal cord. And this connection is essential for transmitting information, much like a central train station where all lines meet and passengers transfer between the routes. Now, the brainstem also controls many essential automatic functions like breathing, heartbeat, and swallowing. So these things we don't have to think about, but they are happening all the time to keep us alive as well as healthy. So remember, these structures work together to manage many of our body's most important automatic functions. So let's talk about how the brain is protected inside our bodies. So skull, talking about skull, the skull provides rigid physical protection. So you can see that you can emphasize how this bony structure acts like a helmet shielding the brain from external impacts as well as injuries. The skull houses and shields the brain tissue. You can highlight that the brain sits securely inside the skull, which prevents it from moving around and protects it from direct trauma. It is much like a precious item kept safe in a sturdy box. So, the skull also supports the weight of the brain. Brain is surprisingly heavy, and the skull helps distribute this weight evenly, preventing pressure on delicate issues, or we can say delicate areas or tissues below it. Now let's introduce the three layers of meninges that protect the brain. These membranes add extra layers of defense, similar to wrapping a fragile object in several layers of protective material. The first meningeal layer is the dura mater. Dura mater is the outermost and toughest layer, acting like a thick, durable cover that provides strong protection against injury. The next layer is the arachnoid matter. This is the middle web like layer that has cushioned the brain, absorbing shocks and preventing damage, much like a soft padding inside a box. The innermost layer is the pia meter. It's delicate and hugs the brain closely, providing nourishment and keeping the brain moist, similar to a thin protective film. Now let's talk about cerebrospinal fluid or CSF. This fluid surrounds the brain and spinal cord, adding another level of protection as well as support. Let's see the details. So it provides cushioning from physical shock. So you can think of it as the water in a snow globe, allowing the brain to flow gently and protect it from sudden movements. It also delivers nutrients to the brain, just like water brings minerals to plants. This fluid supplies essential substances to the brain cells, keeping them healthy. It helps remove waste products from the brain. It's like a cleaning crew carrying away unwanted materials so that the brain can function efficiently. Now that brings to the end of this. So remember that the skull, meninges, and cerebrospinal fluid all work together to keep the brain safe. So let's look into the summary. So we just covered cerebrum, which is the largest part. Talking in general about the brain is the control center of our body, managing everything from our thoughts to our movements. So we have major part here. First is cerebrum, which is the largest part. It is responsible for high level functions like thinking, memory, speech. So you can think of it as the brain's headquarter for decision making and storing information. So this is where we process language and recall facts. In addition to thinking and memory, cerebrum also processes sensory information. That means when you see, hear, touch, taste, or smell something, the cerebrum helps interpret those signals. So it's like a central hub where all senses report in. Now, cerebrum also controls voluntary movement. So, whenever you decide to move your arm, right, or kick a ball, it's the cerebrum sending those instructions. So, it's the body's command center giving orders to rest of your body. And finally, cerebrum is also divided into left and right hemisphere. Each hemisphere here controls the opposite side of the body, and they often specialize in different tasks. For example, the left side is usually more involved in language, while the right side handles special abilities. So, cerebrum is the largest part. It controls thinking, memory, speech. It processes sensory information. It is involved in voluntary movement, and it is further divided into left and right hemisphere. Let's move into cerebrum. This part of the brain sits underneath the cerebrum and has its important role. Let's see them. So, cerebrum is responsible for the balance and coordination. So, your cerebrum, when you, for instance, when you ride a bicycle or walk on a balance on a beam, balancing yourself, your cerebrum is at work, making sure you don't fall over. It also helps with fine motor skills, which are small, precise movements like writing, buttoning a shirt, or playing a musical instrument. So the cerebrum here acts like a quality control manager, making sure your movements are accurate and smooth. So, another key job of cerebrum is posture control. It helps you stand up straight and maintain your body's position even when you are moving. Without cerebrum, we would have a trouble staying upright or adjusting our posture. Next, we also discussed about brainstem. This is the part of the brain that connects to the spinal cord and controls many automatic functions that keep us alive. So the brainstem manages basic functions, basic life functions that happen without us thinking about them. It's like the autopilot system in a airplane, keeping essential systems running in the background. So one of the most important function of the brainstem is controlling breathing. Every breath you take, whether you are awake or asleep, is regulated here. So it's automatic, so you don't have to remember to breathe. Now, the brain stem also controls your heart rate. It makes sure that your heart beats at the right speed, speeding up or slowing down as needed, like a conductor leading an orchestra. Blood pressure, it is another function managed by the brain stem. So it adjusts the pressure in your blood vessels to ensure all the parts of your brain, all the parts of your body get enough oxygen and nutrients, especially during activities like exercise. Finally, brainstem also helps in regulating sleep and wake cycles. It acts like an internal clock, helping you feel awake during the day and sleepy at night. So it controls your circadian rhythm. Then we also discovered about the hypothalamus, its important parts. So we know that how our brain controls and coordinate different functions in the body. We also focused on three important parts, that is hypothalamus, hippocampus, and amygdala. Each of these acts like a control center for specific tasks, much like different departments in a company. We also covered that it how it regulate helps in regulating body temperature. So here it works as a internal thermostat, making sure that you don't get too hot or too cold. For example, when you have a fever, it's hypothalamus that raises your body temperature to help fight against infection. Next, hypothalamus also controls hunger and thirst. So it's like a sensor that tells you that when you need to eat or drink. So if you ever felt really thirsty after running, that's your hypothalamus at work, signaling your body to stay hydrated. Another an important job of the hypothalamus is managing sleep pattern. It's a it helps set your internal clock or circadian rhythm so you feel sleepy at night and awake during the day. That is why you might feel jet lagged when you travel to different time zones. Finally, it is the key for maintaining hormonal balance. Okay, so it helps control stress hormones when you are nervous before an exam. So that kind of job is done by the hypothalamus. It is a key. We can say it is a key part that is responsible for maintaining hormonal balance. Now, we also discussed about hippocampus. This part of the brain is essential for memory and learning. So, you can think of hippocampus as the brain's filling cabinet where new information is organized as well as restored. It is especially important for forming new memories. So, when you meet new people and remember that name, that's your hippocampus in action. So, it is important for memory formation. Now, it plays a big role in learning. Every time you practice a new skill like riding a bike or we can say solving a maths problem, the hippocampus helps you remember and improve it. Okay, so it's like the brain's training coach helping you to get better with practice. Additionally, it helps with spatial navigation. This means that it helps you remember directions and locations like finding your way around school or remembering where you left your keys. So it's like your brain's built-in GPS. Now, we also talked about amygdala, which is another important brain structure, and it is mainly involved in processing emotion. So it's like an brain's alarm system, alerting you to the things that might be important or dangerous. So it is responsible for emotional responses. For example, when you feel happy, sad, or angry, the amygdala is active. It's what makes emotional memories like a fun birthday party or scary movie stand out in your mind. It plays a key role in fear processing. So, when you sense danger, like seeing a snake, the amygdala triggers a quick reaction to help keep you safe. So, this is your body's way of preparing to fight or run away from any kind of threats. Finally, amygdala helps with decision making, especially when emotions are involved. For example, if you feel nervous before making a big choice, that's your amygdala waning it. So it helps you consider how you feel about different options. So to sum up, we have learned that how the hypothalamus, hippocampus, and amygdala each have a unique role in controlling and coordinating our body's functions. So understanding these brain regions help us appreciate how complex and amazing our nervous system is. So this is NCRT. Let's discuss some NCRT based question, and this is your NCRT based question number 1. Let's see the question. So here the question is, what is the function of cerebrospinal fluid? Let's see the answer. So this fluid acts like a cushion for the brain and spinal cord, protecting them from any kind of shocks and injuries. So you can imagine it as a soft pillow that absorbs bumps. It also helps transport nutrients and remove waste, much like how a delivery service brings supplies and takes away garbage. So this shows how the body has a built-in systems to keep our most important organs safe as well as functioning well. So let's see the answer. First, here, CSF acts as a shock absorber. So you can imagine your brain floating in a cushion of fluids, just like how a car has shock absorbers to protect it from any kind of bumps. CSF helps protect the brain from sudden jolts, or we can say injuries. Then it provides buoyancy of the brain, that is upward force to the brain. This means that it helps the brain float inside the skull, reducing the effective weight. Without its support, the brain's own weight could damage the delicate tissues underneath. Another key function is that CSF supplies nutrients to neural tissues. So you can think of it that it helps in bringing essential substances like glucose and oxygen to the brain cells, much like how blood delivers nutrients to other parts of the body. Then it also removes waste products from the brain, just like how garbage trucks collect waste from our neighborhoods. CSF helps clear out harmful substances and metabolic waste from the nervous system. It also maintains suitable pressure inside the cranial cavity. This pressure balance is crucial because too much or too little can cause serious problems. So, CSF helps keep everything stable like air pressure in a tire. So, to sum up, we can say that CSF is vital for protecting, supporting, and nourishing the brain, as well as keeping the environment inside the skull just right. So, remember these key functions as they show how even fluids in our body play a key role in our health. Let's see the next question. So the question is about the blood brain barrier. Talking in general, this barrier is a selective barrier that is formed by tightly packed cells lining the blood vessels in the brain. So it allows essential nutrients like glucose and oxygen to pass through, but it blocks many toxin as well as germs. So this helps keep the brain's environment stable and safe, just like a high security vault protects valuable items. Let's see how it is crucial for our brain's health as well as function. First, blood brain barrier or BBB is a highly selective membrane that we have just discussed that separates the blood circulating in our body from the fluid that surrounds the brain cells. So, it is highly permeable membrane that separates circulating blood from the brain's extracellular fluid. One of the main jobs of the blood brain barrier is to protect the brain from harmful substances. It blocks many toxins and pathogens from entering the brain tissue. But the barrier isn't the barrier isn't completely closed off. It allows selective entry of essential nutrients like glucose and certain amino acids which the brain needs to function. At the same time, the BBB prevents most infections and toxins from getting into the brain. That is why many bacteria and viruses that can make us sick elsewhere in the body usually can't reach the brain easily. So it is formed. The blood-brain barrier is formed by the specialized endothelial cells that line the blood vessels in the brain. So these cells are tightly joined together, creating a strong barrier like bricks in a wall with no gaps between them. So, to sum up, we can say that blood brain barrier acts as a protective shield for our brain, allowing in what's need and keeping out what could be harmful. This is question number 3 and it is MCQ. And the question is, the part of the brain responsible for maintaining balance and coordinating muscle movement is. Let's see the correct answer. So we have cerebrum. Let's discuss why. So cerebrum is located at the back of the brain. So you can imagine your brain as the control center, and the cerebrum is like a operations manager sitting at the back, with making sure that everything runs smoothly. So its position helps in connect with other parts of the nervous system that control the movement. So it is located at the back of the brain, and it is responsible for coordination, precision, and accurate timing of movements. So, uh, it makes sure that your muscles play at the right time with the right intensity, so your movements are smooth and as well as well coordinated. Now another role of the cerebellum is maintaining balance and posture. So it's like body's internal balance coach, constantly making tiny adjustments to keep you upright, whether you are walking, running, or even just sitting still. That is why people with cerebellum injuries often have trouble with balance. To sum up, we can say that cerebellum is essential for both coordinating our movements and keeping us balanced. So remember, whenever you catch yourself from falling or performing a complex movement, it's your cerebellum working behind the scenes. So this is question number 4, and the question is, which part of the brain controls involuntary functions like breathing and heart rate? So we have just covered it that oblongata is responsible for any kind of involuntary functions like heartbeat or breathing. Let's see the answer in detail. So imagine the brain stem as the main highway connecting your brain to the rest of your body, and the medulla oblongata is a critical junction on that highway. So it is located at the base of the brain, right where the brain meets the spinal cord. So you can notice that how medulla oblongata controls vital autonomic functions. So here autonomic means that these actions happen automatically without us having to think about them. So it's like the autopilot system in an airplane, keeping essential system running smoothly. So specifically, the medulla oblongata manages breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, swallowing, and even the vomiting reflex. For example, when you accidentally swallow something the wrong way, it's the medulla that triggers coughing or gagging to to protect you. So these functions are crucial for survival and happen every moment of our lives. So, medulla oblongata is the brain's control center for involuntary actions like breathing and heart rate. So, understanding this will help us appreciate how our bodies work behind the scenes to keep us alive even when we are not aware of it. So, this is question number 5, and the question is of reason assertion types. So, let's see the assertion first. So, the cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Then we have the reason: it is responsible for high order thinking and voluntary movements. So here our assertion is correct, and it is responsible for higher thinking and voluntary actions is also correct. So here our options, correct option will be both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. We covered in our theory also. A cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, and it is responsible for high order thinking and many kind of voluntary movements. Okay, so it makes talking about cerebrum, it is the largest part of the brain. It actually makes up about 85% of the brain's weight. So you can think as the hub. So you can think how important cerebrum is. Now, it is responsible for higher functions like thinking, reasoning, memory, and controlling voluntary movements. So, you can imagine them as a control center that helps you solve mathematic problems and remember your friend's birthday or even decide to raise your hand in a class. So, cerebrum is not just the largest part of the brain, but it also the center of our thoughts, memories, and voluntary actions. So here option A is correct, that is both assertion and reason are true, and reason is the correct explanation of A. Now this is also assertion reasoning type question, and the assertion is the hypothalamus regulates body temperature, and the reason is it receives sensory inputs from temperature receptors in the skin. Let's see the answer. Both A and R are true, that is assertion and reason are true, but R is not the complete explanation of A. Let's see the answer why. So hypothalamus really does regulate body temperature. So you can think of hypothalamus as the body's thermostat that keeps our internal environment steady, just like a thermostat keeps a room comfortable. And this process is called as thermoregulation. But the hypothalamus doesn't just passively monitor temperature; it actively controls it. So you can imagine it as a control center that not only senses changes, but it also decides what actions to take to maintain balance. This is very important distinction. So to keep our body temperature stable, the hypothalamus uses different mechanisms. For example, when you are too hot, it triggers sweating to cool us down, and when we are too cold, it causes shivering to warm up us. So these are some everyday examples that you might have noticed when you exercise or go outside on a chilly day. So, to sum up, we can say while the hypothalamus does receive information from temperature receptors in the skin, its role goes beyond just receiving signals. It actually coordinates the body's responses to maintain a stable temperature. That is why the reason is given isn't the complete explanation for the provided assertion. So, the correct option here is option number B, that is, both statements are correct, but R is not the complete explanation of A. Let's look at some of the interesting facts about this chapter. So, first, the brain is protected by three layers of meninges, that is, dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia mater. So, we know that the brain is surrounded by three special layers called as meninges, the dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia mater. So, you can think of these layers like like layers of bubble wrap around a fragile package, each providing a different type of protection to keep the brain safe inside the skull. Now we also learn about cerebrospinal fluid, which acts as a shock absorber. So this fluid here acts like a cushion or shock absorber for the brain. So you can think of it like a car's airbag that protects passengers during a crash. Same way, this fluid does something similar to the brain, helping to prevent any kind of injury from sudden movements or impacts. Now, we also talked about blood brain barrier, which filters harmful substances. So, this is like a security checkpoint that carefully filters what can enter the brain from the blood. So, harmful substances here are blocked, while essential nutrients are allowed through, keeping the brain's environment stable as well as safe. Then we talked about skull also. It is the hard, bony case that physically shields the brain from external blows. So it's like a helmet for your brain, providing the first line of defense against any kind of injury. Then we also talked about that brain uses 20% of body's oxygen. We have also learned that it has its own immune system. Unlike the rest of the body, the brain relies on special immune cells, which is called as microglia, to defend against infections and cleaning up the debris. So here immune they have their own immune cells, which is called as microglia. Now, another fascinating point is that the brain can repair itself during sleep. So, while we rest, the brain works like a maintenance crew, fixing minor damage and clearing out waste products. This is one reason why getting enough sleep is important for learning and memory. So, these are some interesting facts about this chapter. So, these are some interesting questions for you. You can solve it after completing the lecture, and to check your if you totally understood the fundamental concepts of this chapter or not. So you can take screenshot of it. Now, thank you so much for your attention. I hope this lesson was helpful.